You're listening to Real Talk with Theresa Grant, Realtor, Southern California's premier real estate podcast for the mountain communities of Lake Arrowhead, Big Bear, Crestline, Running Springs, and all points in between. Check out our website at www.homesinlakearrowhead.com. And now, back to the show. Hello, and welcome to the real estate market update for the Rim of the World mountain communities. Today is Tuesday, May 31st. I'm so glad to have you all with me today as I break down the numbers for the prior 7 days according to our local MLS, as well as bring you a couple little tidbits of information that I hope are of use to you. So before we dive into our market statistics for the past 7 days, I want to do two things. One, for those of you who have been a regular listener to the podcast or to our YouTube channel or however you consume this, you know that we release the market statistics on a Tuesday because normally over the weekend in our community, that's when all the activity is happening. So on Monday, we are negotiating, we're settling things out, we're opening escrows. So on Tuesday, normally that is when the best data is available through the local MLS to give us an idea as to what's happened over the prior month. However, because today's the 31st of May, most people know we just came through a long holiday weekend. And so actually today is realistically the day when we're settling things out. But because I am dedicated and committed to bringing you data every single Tuesday, we're going to go ahead and we're going to work with today's market numbers. Now, before we dive into the market numbers, I wanted to share a story with you. Many of my longtime clients and repeat clients know that I've gone through now 4 housing recession markets. And those are, what we refer to as the foreclosure market. Over the weekend, I had a past client come to me and say, Theresa, when are the foreclosures coming? And I just said, oh my goodness, this is a deep dive. I'm going to give you some basic pieces of information to explain to you what's going on in the marketplace so you can plan accordingly. And I wanted to bring that data to you as well. So I'm going to go over ahead and bring up the first slide, and I'm going to explain it to you right before we dive into what we are normally going to talk about every single Tuesday. Our first slide actually is the most data that I can bring to you. This is a slide showing the foreclosure activity of U.S. properties with foreclosure filings, and this is the year-end report, and that also takes us from 2005 up to the end of the first quarter of 2022. Now, we all know that when we went through the last housing recession, we were peaking right around 2010. And according to the data, as all the numbers shook out, we were at the height in 2010 with 2.9 million US properties with foreclosure filings. Down in 2011, we started to see that drop down by almost 1 million. It was 1.9. 2012 was 1.8. 2013 was 1.4. Basically, we kept going downwards in the statistics. However, as you keep going downwards and you hit the time when COVID really became a huge indicator of our marketplace about where we were going to be as a society, what we were going to be able to do, how we were going to be able to move forward, that's when a lot of properties went into forbearance, because basically throughout the entire United States, all foreclosure proceedings stopped. They went on hold. That was it. So you might think that coming out of the COVID lockdown, coming out of the COVID restrictions, we might see the foreclosure filings go up. In reality, according to the numbers, in 2021, nationwide, United States properties with foreclosure filings, 2021, there was only 151,000 properties that had foreclosure filings. And here at the end of Q1, quarter one in 2022, nationwide, only 78,000 went into foreclosure. Now, let's break that down a little bit further. Why are we seeing less properties going into foreclosure? Because we know that there is economic struggles out there. I think we are all pretty familiar with that. Here's the thing. And this is based on my experience over several decades of being in the asset mitigation and recovery business, aka the foreclosure market. The housing market that we have just gone through over the past 2 to 5 years has created enough equity for most people that even if they find themselves in trouble, they can reach out to their real estate professional, they can sell the property, they can pay off whatever debts they have, not just with a bank, but also predictably with anything else that might be hanging over them, credit cards, whatever, and still walk away with money. So a lot of the people that might be in trouble are still able to sell their properties and make themselves whole and walk away with money to have a fresh start. The only time we really go to foreclosure is when we can't do that. In addition, just as a reminder, during every single year, there's always going to be some type of hardship foreclosure, no matter what. Those are defined as ones that occur because maybe of a death in the family, something catastrophic, a divorce, anything like that. That happens all the time, every year, because sometimes, honestly, just bad things happen to good people, and foreclosure ends up being one of the steps in that process. So foreclosure activity, we are at an all-time low. I don't think that the foreclosures are going to come anytime soon to the market. And even if they did, here's what I know, also based on my experience. If a property is foreclosed on today, and then in the next 90 to 120 days, there's not additional steps taken, such as forbearance or a workout or something like that. Let's say the property actually does go to foreclosure at the courthouse. Fine. It's still going to take time for that property to hit the market, and it must, in most cases, hit the open market, thanks to some regulations that were passed during that 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12 time period. So even if something was foreclosed on today, realistically speaking, with all the stopgaps and all of the protections built into that process, not just for the foreclosure itself, but also for the occupants of a home, at least here in the state of California, we're looking at 3 to 5 years maximum before that property would hit the market. So even if those 78,000 properties that came into a foreclosure filing for the first quarter of 2022, even if those 78,000 properties actually went through with it, we're not going to see those hit the market until minimum 2025. That is my prediction based upon my past experience with how the actual process works. So let's go ahead and let's skip over very quickly to our next slide. These are the home price forecasts for 2022. Obviously, some people are hoping for prices to go down. The reality of it is that we don't have the supply to meet the demand. Now, these are nationwide numbers that I'm sharing with you. The home price forecast for 2022, according to Fannie Mae, they say that Fannie Mae predicts we're going to have a 10.8% increase in pricing. And then Freddie Mac says 10.4% increase. CoreLogic is predicting a 9.6%. And then you can also see that there are some others that are predicting a 9%, an 8.4%, an 8.3%, and a 6.2%. Keeping in mind that these are all nationwide numbers, the average for all of those 7 forecasts from the major economic trackers for housing prices, the average of all 7 forecasts is 9%. Now, real estate is local. Some areas are going to have a higher increase. Some areas might have a lower increase, but nationwide, we are predicting a 9% increase in home prices for 2022. So when you put that together with, are the foreclosures coming? Combined with, well, our price is going to go down, we are not predicting it even with rising interest rates. So take that with a grain of salt, and let's go ahead and let's move on to what is actually happening in our local market here in the Rim of the World mountain communities. Okay, let's go ahead and let's talk about the market update for May 24th through the 31st of 2022 for the Rim of the World market communities. That would be everything peak to peak from Crestline to Lake Arrowhead to Running Springs to Green Valley Lake. We're going to stop today's market forecast right at Big Bear. That's a completely different topic. So basically we are talking about those communities and all points in between. First of all, taking a look at the Lake Arrowhead all areas numbers, and keep in mind that Lake Arrowhead encompasses a wide area. There's the area that is Arrowhead Woods, and that has the lake rights for private Lake Arrowhead, but we also include in the all areas of Lake Arrowhead, the outlier areas that do not have lake rights. So those would be Arrowhead Villas, Sky Forest, Crest Park, Crest Estates, Blue Jay, Twin Peaks, even the smaller sub areas like Agua Fria, Blue Jay Canyon, all of those areas are included in the Lake Arrowhead all areas numbers. If you're curious about Arrowhead Woods numbers, don't worry, we're going to hit those in just a moment. Right now, according to our market update in the MLS this morning, there are now 208 listings available for sale in the Lake Arrowhead area. That number is actually up according to last week's statistics. Last week, there were 179 properties on market, and this week there's 208. That's to be expected because seasonally speaking, we are going into our uptick when a lot of people put property on the market. And this would be normal for us to see that percentage increase. Compared to several years ago, though, we are still low on inventory, but 208 properties actively available for sale means that you've got a pretty good shot if you're looking for a home in our area. Sold in the past 7 days, those are the properties that have closed escrow. In the past 7 days, we actually, oh, that graphic is wrong. I'm going to give you the real number. 20 properties closed escrow in the past 7 days. It was 6 properties the week prior. Oh, this graphic is actually quite wrong. I do apologize for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, but this week in escrow, 48 properties. Last week was 57. That number is down. And then coming soon, those are properties that are listed for sale, and you're seeing the marketing for them, but they're not available to be shown yet. That number on the slide is correct. We have 4 properties in coming soon status. Last week it was 2. So overall, we're seeing an uptick in actual numbers for the Lake Arrowhead all areas. Let's take a look at the Arrowhead Woods numbers and let's move along with that. Okay, Arrowhead Woods, as a reminder, that's the area specifically around Lake Arrowhead that has lake rights for private Lake Arrowhead. We tend to break that out from our market data simply because the ability to have lake rights runs with the land. It's not something that you can purchase separately. We did a completely separate video about what's lake rights and how does that work for everybody. Go ahead and look that up if you're so inclined. But here are the numbers this week. Active listings in Arrowhead Woods, 146. That's up last week's numbers of 127. So good opportunity there if you want to try to find a property that fits your needs that has lake rights. Properties that closed escrow in the past 7 days. This week, we closed 11. So that's 11 new homeowners in Arrowhead Woods. The week prior, we were at 5. So that's an uptick too. In terms of properties in escrow, so that means that they're going through the process of the sale. Last week, our number was 43. This week, our number is 35. So the number of properties actually in escrow went down a little bit. And then coming soon, this week, there are 2, whereas last week, there was only 1 in the pre-marketing stage. So let's move on to the Crestline market. Now, this is fun. I love watching Crestline because Crestline is altitude, elevation speaking. Crestline's the first town area you come to as you come up Highway 18, up Waterman Canyon. So that's usually the first place that people see as a housing community as they're coming up the mountain. Active listings this week, 82. That's up 10 from last week where there were 72 properties on the market. In terms of escrows closed, sold in the past 7 days, the past week we had 6, last week there were 4. In escrow for Crestline, We are completely even. Last week, we had 36 properties in escrow. This week, there are 36 properties in escrow. And last week, there were 3 properties in coming soon status. Now there is only 1. Let's go ahead and let's move over to Running Springs. We'll do that real quickly. This week for Running Springs, we've got 58 active listings. There have been 2 that closed escrow in the past 7 days. In escrow, 14, and there are 3 properties coming soon. Last but not least is the charming little town of Green Valley Lake. That's the last little one before you actually go through Highway 18 and go through the Arctic Circle and get up to Big Bear. Green Valley Lake, not a lot of movement happening there. 16 active listings. We've had 2 closed escrows in the past week. There's now 2 properties in escrow though, compared to 0 last week. And there are no listings that are in the coming soon status. Let's go ahead and let's talk about what this means in terms of where we were last week and where we were this week. Our average active days on market, factually, mountain-wide, is 41. That is actually not that much of a difference between last week. So that's keeping nice and current. The average active price per square foot is $420. That's down a whole $1 from last week. That tells me that we've got a nice, even market happening right now. No big spikes, even thanks to the holiday weekend or even thanks to what happened 30 days ago. Our average price per square foot on the closed, though, last week was at $357. This week, the graphic is incorrect. I ran the numbers again. We are at $452 a square foot. Our average days on market for closed properties is 20. Last week it was 17. What does it mean that we had a huge jump on average for our price per square foot closed from 357 to 452? Keep in mind that the market area is very, very broad, and we have prices as low as, say, just a skosh under 300,000, all the way up to properties that are hovering around the $10 million mark. So all it takes to bump something up or down is one of those really expensive or several of those mid to high range properties to close escrow, and that's going to cause a bump. What's most important when we're talking about the market data is not so much to track it like, oh my gosh, this week it's up. Oh my gosh, this week it's down. It's when we look at time over time, month over month, year over year, quarter over quarter, and that helps us really understand the housing market just a little bit better. I sincerely hope that this week's market update has been of value to you. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and make sure that you let me know about them because I love answering your questions. So that is our market update for the week of May 24th to May 31st. We will see you next time. Bye for now.